started. Yeah, yeah. The entire reason of starting this platform called Inspirend, as you know, the name itself goes. These are the inspiring individuals who I want to host and all those. So really thank you everyone for coming out here.
Thank you for inviting us. It's really appreciated. Thank you so much.
Start. Are we live on the Facebook page as well?
No, that's what I'm trying to find out, because for some reason I'm not able to get that live Facebook thing out here.
Okay.
Zoom had given a new update, so I
Hmm.
updated it 3 days back.
Hmm. Like people who have registered, how can they see? Like if they give their web ID, then they can go through the Zoom link and do.
Yes, yes, yes. People who have registered can watch it through Zoom.
Hmm.
Okay. So uh, you know this is recording, so I'll just put it up after the after the webinar. I'll just put it up on the web for everyone to have a
So
look.
right now it will not go live on Facebook.
Right now, I guess we are not going live on Facebook. It's not allowing me. Okay, so we'll start, or should we?
We can start. I'm good with
I
starting.
Yeah, I guess because Mansi had to leave a little early, right?
So you
Yeah, I
start
have
with
a
Mansi.
meeting at 6.
Yeah, let's start
Not
with
till 5,
Mansi only.
but
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and thanks everyone to for coming out here for being a part of this webinar. Right? This
thank
webinar
you.
is powered by Radio City 91.1, and I'll just give you a small brief about Inspirend. Right, it's Inspirend. It's an emerging platform which we have started, right, wherein we are going to host and showcase inspiring individual stories of people who have succeeded in life, from their difficulties, from their their grit and determination. They have succeeded. So those kind of individuals is what we are planning to showcase on Inspirend. Okay, this is an online platform, but we are also taking it on offline. We will be doing events in different parts of the city and India, and taking up local individual stories and showcasing them. So
Great.
this webinar series is a part of a 7-part series what we are doing, titled A Different World. Different world. The only reason being, everything is changing. Everything has changed a lot. Okay, this is something which we had never ever thought of, that a humankind will go to this kind of a phase, right, where everyone would be logged in for 40 days, 45 days, and still in places like Mumbai, Delhi, Pune, we don't know how much longer it's gonna be, right? It's like 13th. People are saying it's 13th, but then we don't know. At least for Bombay, Delhi, Pune, these red zones, we don't know how longer it's gonna be. So I'll just start with Mansi Joshi first. She is, she is India's current Para Badminton World Championship gold medalist. A real honor to have you. She is
Thank you,
also
Prashant. Thank
Yeah, she's also an Indian para badminton athlete, ranked world number 2 in SL3 singles, and she will tell us much more about it. What is SL3 singles to people who don't know out here? Okay, and she's also a national award winner for best sports person with a disability. And after having been a software engineer for 7 years, she turned into a professional athlete in 2017. So imagine, in just 4 years, 3 years, I guess, 3 to 4 years, she's a world champion in something which many people take ages to become. She wishes to drive a shift in how disability and parasport is perceived. So I would like, I'll give the mic to Mansi. Please, take over.
So, hi Prashant, and thank you for having me. Thank you, Inspirent, for doing such an amazing work. Thank you for such a kind introduction. Yes, one day on my way to work, I met with an accident, and unfortunately, after a few days, I had to undergo an amputation to save my to save my life. And after a few days of hospitalization, I came back home, started my rehab, and used badminton for my rehabilitation. And things worked out in my favor. I chose a sport that I loved, and luckily, this sport is going to make its debut at Paralympics in 2021 now, which because of this Corona situation has got postponed for 1 year from 2020 to 2021. My event as a singles category won't be an event where I won a gold medal. So I'm trying for mixed doubles now. Of course, it's little tough because our ranking in mixed doubles is we are little behind many champions. So, but yeah, we are trying to, improve our rankings, and I think this 1 year we may get some chance where new tournaments will be added, and we can also try and become improve our ranking. So what do I tell you, like I had chosen badminton as a sport since childhood. I have studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya, Atomic Energy Central School. So my father was a scientist at Bhabha Atomic Research Center in Mumbai. And in there we had a lot of facilities for all the employees of Department of Atomic Energy. So we had good grounds, good areas, and very much open spaces, which we don't find much in Mumbai. So I had badminton court nearby. I used to go for coaching there. And in my school, I had also chosen many other sports like football, basketball, volleyball. And I also used to take part in, all sports, athletics, track and field. I was taking part in school drama, elocution competitions. So since childhood, I was always a out as extracurricular participation while a kid, and it helped me, it changed my personality a lot. I was very docile initially, but then I became really outgoing in these few years. I started my engineering in Somaya in Vidya Vihar. I finished it in 2010. So we had a badminton court there. I used to play for my school, college, and after my graduation in 2010, I joined a software company called as Atos. And even for that company, I used to play corporate level tournaments. It was just 1 year since I started working, and one day on my way to work, I met with an unfortunate accident. I had such amazing support system around me, because of which I was able to deal with such a big loss in such a positive manner. And all I can say is because I had some amazing doctors, prosthetists, and my family and friends, because of which, I had people who were pushing me to my limits. I had people who would tell me that, things are possible. And there was not much of negativity around me, or I didn't hear much of negativity, because of which I had a lot of hope, and I was very optimistic to pursue things. I had to, when I got selected, so I used to participate at corporate tournaments, and in one corporate tournament, I had got a gold medal after my amputation when I was still learning how to walk. So, one thing led to the other, and the love for sport actually made me pursue a sport which is very agile, which requires a lot of agility and a lot of movement, which my prosthetic unfortunately didn't allow me. So in 2018, another sport prosthetic, and use that prosthetic to pursue my ambition for para sports. In these few years, I've taken some really big risk, like I have pursued a sport which was very popular which was not getting much funding, or I left my secure job to pursue this sport. So I moved to another city. I was staying alone, practicing 8 to 10 hours a day, making sure my body like recovers of all these training. So it was tough initially when I moved to Hyderabad with Gopi sir and I started training, but I actually got a hang of it. And a lot of things happened in these few years. I had developed an ambition to become the best. I was mediocre initially, but to be the best, I worked really hard and made sure that, I do something. So in 2019, last year, I got a gold at World Championship. I had not even won a single gold before that. So this was my first achievement, first major achievement in a very big tournament, which gave me a lot of appreciation from people around me. And last year, I also got a national award for being a best sports person with a disability. So, I made sure that these few years, every day, I took one small step to walk one step further. And now, if I look back, I've walked a lot and I did a lot of good things. And I can say that, I've done something out of my adversity. I've chosen, of course, it was an adversity, but I converted into an opportunity and made sure I be the best in that area.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mansi. Thank you for that short. Okay. So, why yeah, your video is back, right? So why badminton only, in the sense, because badminton is a very high agility sport. Badminton is supposed to be, I myself I've been a badminton player university level.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I know how difficult stamina wise it's very good, definitely, yes, but agility wise and everything. So any particular reason of choosing badminton only as sport?
So after my injury, actually, I chose badminton after I pursued so many sports that I told you in my school. I used to go for coaching, and I had become very good in that sport. As I told you, I was representing my school, my college, and corporate in that field, in that sport. So I loved that sport because. After trying so many sports, I felt this is the sport I want to pursue because as you said, it requires agility, it requires movements, it requires stamina. That is one reason I chose badminton. And we had very good facilities in my area to pursue the sport. After my amputation, I chose badminton because my brother is himself a badminton player. So we both used to go to badminton court, which was nearby. We would book courts on Sundays and evenings after used to come from work, and we used to play that sport. So just because I used to use crutches to balance even when I was using a prosthetic leg. And in that, I was trying to play badminton, and I wanted to leave that crutch, which had become a part of my identity. So to have that kind of balance, to have that kind of confidence, badminton actually helped me a lot to change the crutch kind of identity that I had. I don't deny, like, you can have crutches and everything, but then for me, my prosthetist suggested that you should leave this crutch. They said that people only take 2 to 3 months, and it was almost 8 to 10 months that I was still dependent on a crutch, when I was walking. So to, leave that part, I chose the sport.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Captain Shalini Singh. Captain Shalini Singh, she is a proud Army veteran, inspirational speaker, soft skills trainer, and Mrs. India 2017. She has been honored by Mrs. Savita Kovind, President's wife, and Indian Army. She has won many coveted awards like Veer Nari Samman Puraskar by Government of India, APIC Awards 2018, Citations of Honors by Lions Club, All India Achievers Award, Women of Courage Award by International Human Rights Council, and Woman of the Year 2018 by Newspaper Association of India. So, ma'am, all yours.
Thank you, Prashant, for having me here. And Mansi, I'm really inspired by your story. It really requires a lot of guts to do whatever you're doing today. Hats off to you. And as regards to my journey, I'll give a very brief, quick run through of my journey. So I was a very simple next door girl kind of a thing without much of ambition, no career focused. I was very brought up in a very simple environment, and somehow I got married at an early age of 19 and to an army officer. So for me, getting married into an army family, getting married to an army officer was a big deal because I had never seen anyone directly in army. So it was, I had heard only army stories. So it was a beautiful marriage of 4 years, and in that 4 years of marriage, I was blessed with a baby boy. So after 4 years of marriage, my husband was posted in Jammu and Kashmir, and while he was in Jammu and Kashmir in a terrorist encounter, he got killed. He killed 4 terrorists, but in that bargain, he had to sacrifice his life. He was awarded Kirti Chakra posthumously. So now, after his demise, you know how our Indian society is, and how we girls are made to feel that now what will happen to you, how your life is going to be. And with a small child, it was and very difficult for me to understand actually what is going to happen to my life and what am I going to do with my life. So the first thought, I think it's a very normal human psychology that the first thought you get is to just quit your life or just quit from that situation. So I was also into that words like, now if my husband is not there, I have no existence and I don't want to live, or I can't live my life. Who will take care of me? Who will be there for me to fend me? So all these thoughts were like eating me up, and I definitely decided to give up on life. But then I saw my 2-year-old son, and he was too small to understand what has happened. That his dad has gone, mom has lost her senses to take care. So in all this bargain, someone told me that why don't you join army? And when that person who was very close to my husband, when that person told me that why don't you give a try to join the army? So I thought like he's just making a fun of me because I was a very delicate girl. Like if I'll go out in the sun, I will feel sick. So I was that delicate. I had never done any sport in the school, never participated into any adventure kind of a thing where any physical stamina is required. So I really thought that it is not for me, and he said no, that you are meeting all the eligibility criteria to join the army, but you have to pass the exam, you have to appear for the exam, you have to do the training, because on that front nobody is going to help you. You have to do it on your own, but if you try, you can. So I just left with that thought because I for sure knew I can't do it. It's not my cup of tea. But then what gave a thought to me after thinking about it, that uh, maybe this is a way I can, if I get to wear the uniform, I can be with my husband. My son can get a feel that, oh, his dad is still there. And with all those thoughts, after 3 months of my husband's demise, I appeared for the army entrance exam. And I just prepared for that exam for a week. I broke my nose also for preparing for that exam. I was trying to jump a ditch and all, you know, I had never done all those things. And the trauma of losing my husband was so fresh in my mind. Everything I was doing was very challenging for me. But somehow, God willing, I was able to clear the exam. And within 6 months of my husband's demise, I reached academy. So I was not, I was very thrilled when I reached the academy, because I thought I've reached the academy, I've become an officer. I never realized that I have not even done anything to become an officer. I have to undergo the 6 months of training. That was one part. And second part was that I had to leave my son with my parents back home. I had to go for the training in Chennai, and my son had to be in Kanpur. I'm talking of 2002. year 2002. At that time, mobile phones were also not there. So for me to communicate to my son for next 6 months was going to be a challenge. I can't even meet him. So all these things made it very difficult for me to be at the academy. And when I started doing the training, it was beyond my mental and physical capacity. Like within a week, I thought I can't do it, and I need to go back home. I don't just care what people think. I can't do this. The training was so difficult for me. But then whenever the thought of quitting was there, I always used to think that I can't quit. I can't be so weak that my husband has done something so big and gone. I can't be such a weak wife. So I will go back from here as an officer. If I can't do the training, if I have to die, I'll die here, because everything that requires your physical capacity, you feel that, oh, you will die. So I thought, let me die. If I have to die, I'll die here doing the training. But then I think the mental strength was more important, and I could, with all my mental strength, that gave me a lot of physical stamina also, and I could clear the training. And within 6 months, within 1 year of my husband's demise, I became an army officer. And the best part was when my husband was awarded gallantry award, I went to receive it from late Shri Abdul Kalam ji, and I was wearing uniform. That is the proudest moment, because uh, when I walked up to the podium to receive the award, I was in uniform, and it was a lot of sense of pride was there in me, but also a lot of sorrow was also there, because I never thought that maybe he would have been there to receive the award on his own. But maybe if I felt that I am walking with him, or I am now, he is within me with that uniform. So that feeling was like so strong that till date I get goosebumps when I feel that walk of, like, it was just a 30-second walk from my seat till the podium, but till date it is so fresh in my mind. So after doing my tenure in army, I quit army, I took a VRS, and I started in corporate work. And then I met with a very bad road accident, extremely bad road accident, where I got 17, 18 fractures. My leg was broken, hand was broken, back was broken, collarbone was, everything you think of a body part, and that was broken. And I was straight away bedridden for 1 year. And the worst part was doctor told that I can't, like, from the bed, after 1 year, I moved to a wheelchair, and then I started walking with the support. And I got a lot of implants in my body. I still have a lot of damages which are like permanent. So after I got into army, I developed a passion for running. I was not a big time runner, but I started enjoying running. So after my accident, doctor said you can never run. And I was very fond of wearing high heels, and he said you can't wear heels also because of leg injury. So these two things I was very sad. Oh God, how will I live? Like for me, it was like, I can't run, I can't wear heels. They gave me like very much difficulty. How will I deal with it? But I thought, okay, he said I can't run, but I registered myself with Airtel Marathon. That it had just started that time. He said you can't do, you just can't do. So I said I'll try, and I couldn't do it. Honestly, I could just walk like 150 or 200 meters, and my legs swell very badly. And I came back, and instead of quitting, at that night, what thought came to me, that doctor said I can't do anything, I can't walk, I can't run, but I could do 150 meters, 200 meters. So that is an achievement for me. Had I been sitting at home, I couldn't have done that also. And from there, I started picking my all uh, scattered pieces, and I started walking. I started with a walk like every day, 100 meters, 200 meters, and slowly within 2 years, 3 years, I never realized how I got to running, jogging and running. And now today I'm running marathons. That is like my biggest achievement, where I was told that I can never run. I started running. And then it was after this, a few more setbacks came to life. I lost my dad all of a sudden, which again pushed me into some trauma and depression. But then few of my friends told me that why shouldn't I participate in a pageant, and like people should know, people should get inspired. Like a lot of people lose hope in life with everything. And again, I thought that's not my cup of tea, because being in army, you're totally different from the beauty world. And it was like I was just away from all these things. But then again, I thought, why not? This is just one life. We are getting a very less chance in this life to do things and experience things. So I will do it for myself. I will just experience that pageant. And I participated with no thought of winning or losing, just to have an experience. And God willing, I came out as a winner. That was also one of the very nice moments, because when my name was announced as a winner, I was so clueless, because I was very sure I'm not going to win, because there were so many girls from all the parts of the different part of the world, and also well trained, and I had to do my job, take care of my home, child. So I had hardly prepared. But when my name was announced, and my girl standing next to me, she told me, it's your name, go. So I couldn't believe it. And with that, I also realized that if you put your sincere efforts, it's not important that what clothes you're wearing, how much your makeup is good, and it is how sincerely you put in your efforts. And the most important thing is that if you stop competing with others, you have to believe that you are your own competition. Half of the time we try and compete with others and see कि उनका क्या कम है या उनका क्या अच्छा है, हम उनसे ज़्यादा और अच्छा कर ले. So it is always important that we work on our shortcomings and we improve our own whatever is good in us. So that will also help us to achieve whatever we want. So that is how life is moving on. My son is now 20 plus. He is doing BTech from Mumbai, and things are going fine. I do take care of a lot of war widows, because being myself a war widow, I realize how much it is important to stand on our feet. It is a very traumatic experience to lose your loved one just like that into a war or on a battleground. It is not easy for the children, for the family, for the parents. So I took it as a responsibility that it is very important for me that to take care of these families, to take care of the ladies. I also do a lot of work for slum children, and I'm a big time animal lover. So I do take care of some stray dogs. I have 2 pets at home. That's how life is going on, as much as I'm able to help people. And I try to do that. And that's all how life is. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalini. Now we'll move on to Virali Modi. Hi, Virali is a motivational speaker, disability right activist, and a model. She was also named as one of the most influential and inspirational women of 2017 by BBC's 100 Women. So over to you, Virali.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. And Shalini and Mansi, I just have to say your stories are just mind-blowing, and it just shows the strength that we have inside if we actually utilize it, the kind of hurdles that we can cross. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. It's pretty amazing. So my story basically begins, I was born in Bombay, I was raised in America, and when I was 14 years old, I had come to India for a vacation during the monsoon season in 2006. After coming back to the US, I started getting symptoms of malaria. The doctors could not diagnose it, all of the testing was normal. Suddenly, the fever of I'm assuming which is malaria, it crossed over 102, 103 degrees Fahrenheit. And it basically affected my brain. Because of that, I started having hallucinations. I could not recognize my family anymore. I could not recognize my mother. And I was admitted into the hospital where they did an MRI. And they thought that they saw something in the back of my neck in the cervical region. So they did a spinal tap, which is where they insert a needle into the spinal cord to take out CSF to test for neurological ailments. Everything was normal except for the fact that I was declared dead for 7 minutes at that point of time. My blood pressure skyrocketed to over 200. I vomited. Half of it went into my lungs, half of it came out, causing respiratory arrest and cardiac arrest. So I was declared dead for 7 minutes. I was laying on the testing table. They were using those shock machines to revitalize my heart. Finally, after the third try, they got my heartbeat back, but they couldn't get my breathing back. I was transferred into the ICU, and the next day they did another lumbar puncture. after which I went into a coma for 23 days. During the coma, I was declared dead 2 more times, which makes it 3 times in total. And the 21st of September, the doctors had a meeting with my mother saying that Virali, there's no improvement in Virali and we want to pull the plug of the ventilator. Basically, they wanted to kill me. My mom begged them saying that Virali's 15th birthday is on the 29th of September and we want to celebrate it. So you have to get his permission. They got the permission, but uh, only on one issue. They said that if Virali does not improve on the 29th of September, then the 30th at midnight, we will pull the plug of the ventilator. And my mother agreed to it, saying that fine, like you can do that. This is my last wish. They celebrated my birthday. We decorated my whole ICU room. My family came, 75 people. And I was born at 3 or 5 p.m. on the 29th of September. And the same time that I was born, my dad took my hand, started singing happy birthday, and we cut the cake. And as soon as I cut the cake, I opened my eyes and I am just staring at the ceiling. Everyone started screaming, and the doctors came in, they did a checkup, and they were like, yeah, she will survive. She will survive. I went back into a coma, and then on the 5th of October, I came out of it. I had a tracheotomy done, so you can see I have a scar here. So they put a breathing tube through my neck for me to breathe. Now, when I came out of my coma, I didn't know that I was paralyzed from the neck down. The doctors thought that there may be something mentally wrong with me, but everything was fine except my arms could not move. I could only move my neck, yes or no. That's about it. When I found out when I saw myself sitting on a wheelchair and I was slumped over. I was like a vegetable. There was no movement, there was no sensation, there was no nothing in my body. It was just like a dead body that's just breathing. That's kind of what it was like. Unfortunately, I did not have a good support system. My mom and dad were always supportive. My family, my friends, they all kind of measured me down to be a burden, and which they said to my face, saying that I'm a burden and that no one will want to hang out with me. And because of that, despite always being a positive person and always accepting situations as they come, I went into depression and I tried committing suicide twice. And my mother when I survived, my mother was like, you have to learn to love yourself. You cannot expect other people to love you if you cannot love yourself. And the day that you love yourself, you won't need anyone else in your life. You won't need anybody. I took it with a grain of salt because I was, after all, a teenager. Mom ki baat kaun sunta hai? So I took it with a grain of salt and I didn't listen to her. But then in 2008, I shifted to India with my mom while my dad stayed in America. And that is when I first experienced true inaccessibility in Bombay. I had to travel to Delhi via train, and I was molested by the porters because there are no accessible lifts or ramps to get inside the compartment of the train. So two uncles, the age of my father, they had come and one of them lifted me up from my shoulders and the other from my knees. And as soon as we got into the compartment, there was a pin drop silence. Everyone was staring. No one wanted to even help out. The guy that was holding me from my shoulders, he wrapped his arms around my chest and he started touching me inappropriately. And everyone saw, no one said anything. And I was ashamed. I thought that I cannot say anything because if I do, what if they drop me? Or what if they leave me? Like, who will help me? So I didn't say anything. And they escorted me to my berth and I looked that man in the eye and I said, thank you. Thank you for helping me. And that happened 3 times in 2008, 2011, 2013, all in Bombay. And I never said anything because I was scared that I would be slut shamed. I was scared that if I go to the police or someone, they will say, why did you need to go via train? Why couldn't you just go via plane, or why couldn't you go via car? I didn't want it to be my fault. So I never said anything. And then in 2014, I had always wanted to be an actress or a model. And so I had the chance of participating in Miss Wheelchair India, where I won second place in 2014 for that. And that's when I started my writing as well. So I started writing on Quora about disability, life, love, relationships. and kind of just how to cope with negative situations in general. And currently, I have over 150,000 followers on Quora. I've been named the top writer for 5 consecutive years in a row. And from that, when the Disability Rights Bill launched in late 2016, in early 2017, I started my campaign called hashtag MyTrain2, which is for accessible Indian railways. Now that petition has over 5 lakh signatures as of now. And a railway official from Kerala and we have made 8 stations all across India totally wheelchair accessible without any renovations, just by implementing portable ramps, small aisle-sized wheelchairs, and sensitizing the railway staff, all of the railway staff. So we have Hyderabad, Orissa, we have 5 stations in Kerala, Bombay Central, and Chennai as of now. And we're currently working through a CSR initiative, working on making Churchgate Station accessible. And because of that, because of those efforts, I won the Women's Achievement Award by Delhi Commission of Women. And like Sir, you mentioned, BBC 100 Women. Um, Consecutively, I've won over 20 or so awards for my activism and for my motivational speaking. And like I always said, I wanted to be a model. I had the wonderful opportunity to model with Salman Khan for the Being Human campaign in 2018. And in 2019, I went on to being the showstopper for 4 fashion shows, which is Bombay Times Fashion Week, also FBB. Um, so that's been pretty amazing. And currently, actually, recently last year, this is a bit of unfortunate news, but I lost my mother to cancer last year. She was a fighter, and I know that the person that I am is definitely because of her perseverance, her determination, and all of the strength that she's given me. And I know that ever since a young age, my mother had always taught me that she's always taught me about karma and how, you know, if you do good, you get good. If you do bad, you get bad. And that always stuck to me. And so I've always been that person where if I see injustice anywhere, I will be the first person to speak up about it or to try and create a change about it. So recently, during the lockdown period, I live alone in Bombay. My dad is still in America. I don't have any siblings. So since I live alone, I have a caretaker that comes for 2 hours during the day to cook and clean my house for me. Now, because of the lockdown, she wasn't able to come. So I reached out to the police and politicians, and the DCP of Bombay called me. I got a call from the Home Minister's office to help me out with the situation. And since I had gotten so much support, I decided that there must be so many people with disabilities and the elderly who are living alone, who do not have help, and who are not independent enough to take care of their well-being. So I've started a petition called hashtag disability on lockdown, where we're working with the central government in terms of getting government issued IDs for caretakers so they can go to the individuals' homes and take care of them while traveling back, but obviously taking the full precaution that they need to not spread the virus. So for me, my journey has always been about the ups and downs in life and how not to get caught up in a situation where you are just feeling at your lowest, which again was my mother passing away. Like I had gone through depression. I was diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed with anxiety. I was supposed to be put on medicine for that antidepressants, and I was like, no, if I can do this by myself, and if I need it, then I have the help of pharmaceuticals, but I want to do this on my own. And slowly but surely, through meditation, through a lot of self love, a lot of self care, thankfully I'm out of it. And it just goes to remind me that no matter how dark a situation, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And that is kind of how I perceive this whole coronavirus and this lockdown situation. I feel like, yeah, it's a horrible situation, and it's horrid that so many people are dying and getting infected. But I try to look at the silver lining, which is I now started my own YouTube channel, which I'm getting time to do finally. I am doing like webinars like this, which is amazing, connecting to amazing people, which I know I definitely would not have had the time to do. So for me, it's always been about finding the positive in a negative situation and channeling those negative energies into something positive to create positivity. So positivity has always played a big role in my life. And for me, my motto has always been to just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Like Dory says in Finding Nemo.
Thank you, Virali. Thank you for sharing your story. And, it just says that, life has thrown so many obstacles to all three of you, but the way, the grit, the determination, the determination you three have, I just want to this, everyone has that one moment, that one thought which changes everything in their life. That one moment which comes, or that one thought which comes to their mind, and then they say, "Ki, no, now, this is enough. Now I'm going to get up and show it to the world, or show it to myself first, right? What am I made of? And I can overcome that." So starting with Mansi, what is that one thought? What is that one moment which changed everything for you?
So, when I came back home after, hospitalization, when I saw myself for the first time in the mirror, when I felt like, am I defined by what body parts I have and what body parts I don't? Or is it who I am as a person? And at first I felt little incomplete, but within a few hours, I gave myself a pat on the back saying that you survived this, you survived a big accident, and you have done something. Because I had injured my hands in my accident, I had injured my leg for 21 days. I couldn't even, ऐसे करवट तक नहीं बदल सकते थे, वैसे हॉस्पिटल में रहती थी मैं. तो मुझे लगता था, if I can, sleep without even changing sides, I can do anything. तो I took every day, one day at a time, to improve my current situation. At first, for me, even getting up and balancing myself on crutches was difficult. But then I was, climbing steps on my crutches. I was very adamant to, be good on my crutches. So I have done trekking on my crutches. I've traveled like 6 to 8 kilometers on my crutches. I have gone to Gulmarg and done after like gondola ride. There is one small trek you do from where you can see LOC. So I have done that on my crutches, and there are things which I feel I can't do on my prosthesis, which I've done on my crutches. But there is one moment where I felt that, I am talented. That was when in that badminton sport itself, I had played a corporate level tournament, intra company tournament in 2011 before my accident, and I had won a gold there. And when I was still learning how to walk again and leave that identity of a crutch, I again played that tournament in the year 2012, which was just few months after I came back home and I started my rehabilitation. And there I won a gold again, defeating everybody else. And at that time I had become a disabled person and everybody else were able-bodied people. And when I did that, I realized that I am really talented and I have good hand skills, and I am all I require. Of course I've lost mobility, but it doesn't matter. I realize that we as people are amazing. We can, like, it heals, like our body heals. People tell me that, time can heal everything, but I think what we do with that time heals everything. And I think that is what I have always believed in, to make sure I spend my time in the best way to train myself or push myself to the limits. And and even if I say in my sport, very few people with amputation in women's category, they play the sport because it is difficult to play on a prosthetic. But then initially when it was tough, last year I converted it to a gold. So there have been so many things actually that has made me do this. But at one moment, take a badminton that, or tell me that I am super talented would be that corporate tournament where I had again got that gold after my amputation.
Okay, thank you. And I guess we have only 5-6 minutes with you. So before you leave, just one person, see, you are an inspirational story for all of us, for everyone out there. Okay, but there has to be one person who inspires you the most. Who is that and why?
I think my father has inspired me the most because when I have seen my father in all the stages, like of course, so I have seen him working extremely hard. He was awarded for his project. He was awarded gold medal. He has done some amazing research project and developed India in the field of nuclear science. He apart from that, he is also a tennis player and he used to represent BARC. And he keeps on learning. That's what I'm trying to say. He started writing, and he's a poet. And in 2013, he got, or 2014, he got Sahitya Academy Puraskar from Maharashtra State for his Kavya Manorath. So, he has been the best in whatever he is doing. And I have seen him working extremely hard. Even before his retirement, I've seen him, studying and preparing for different things. And he gives me that inspiration. He gives me that drive to push myself and keep on learning every day, because education doesn't stop. It Till you die, you have to keep on learning new things, read books, and fine tune your skills. So I think my father has inspired me a lot with his consistent hard work and perseverance.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll just ask the same question to Shalini, and what is that one thought or one moment that changed your life?
So there was a time when I decided to quit on life with my son, when everybody had filled in my head that you can't live your life without a man, or your husband is gone, what will you do now, who will take care of you? So I had seriously thought of quitting life, just giving up on life. I don't want to live anymore. And there was a thought whether I should die alone or I should die with my son. That was the thought I was contemplating. Like, I had started contemplating that I'll die, and I was only thinking whether to die alone or with my son. And then I was also taking ideas that how should I finish myself. That was also important, that when you have to die, you have to think of ways how you want to die. And then I realized that how can I be so insane, or how can I be so stupid that I am wasting so much of my time thinking of ways which are not so easy, and which will not leave anybody happy about it, and it is going to give a lot of pain to me and my son too. So the amount of time I'm wasting on these things, why not I put a positive thought process? Because I just realized at that point of time that quitting is difficult, living is easy. The if you waste your time thinking how to quit, better is to put the same time in leading a life which can change your life. And that was the point when I was deciding how to quit my life. I decided, no, quitting is not the answer. I have to hit back on life, and I have to get up again, and I have to do. Definitely there has to be support from your family and your well-wishers. You can't do things alone. I had my parents back all the time. Till date, my mother, I've lost my dad. My mom is still there, who supports me. But that one thought that said that you can't quit. It is very difficult to quit. It is very easy to live your life, and that lives with me today also. That if wherever I am stuck, when I was bedridden, I was also in the same situation of Mansi, where I was sleeping onto one side because my entire right side was broken, because I fell from a height, so my entire right side was broken. So I was only on my left side, and I was there for like for many months. I was lying like that. So all those times I always felt that I have to get up and do it. I have a tattoo which says "Till I rise," which means that whatever will keep coming to me, I will rise. I will bounce back. So I never give quitting a thought. That one thing that keeps motivating me, that you have to keep your mind positive. That's all. There will be days which will not be the way you want. There will be stressful days. That we are also human beings. We have our happy days, low days. What everything starts from here, and now I believe my head is on the top because everything has to start from here because your brain has to be positive. So I definitely try and keep my head very positive, and your physical, whatever you do, this has to be taken care of. Physical stamina also you get from your hair only. It's not by eating a lot of protein or carbs, it is by keeping your mind strong. That's all I would like to say.
Moving on to Virali, your one moment.
So I remember this time after my coma, after I was sent home, my hands were not working properly. Like my thumb was only working this much. That's about it, slightly. I remember one time I was sitting on the floor with the support of the sofa, and I told my mom that I was hungry and I wanted to eat something. I don't know what happened to her. She went into the kitchen, she got 4 bowls, and she put my favorite biscuits in those bowls. She put my favorite biscuits and she put all 4 bowls out in front of me in a semicircle. And I looked at her and I said, "What are you doing? Feed me, I'm hungry, like please." So she sits on the sofa behind me and she's like, "I am not your maid. I am not your maid. If you are hungry, then you can go and feed yourself. I am also a human being. I get tired." And I just looked at her and I had tears in my eyes. I said, "Mom, how do I?" She said, "I don't know. It does not matter to me. If you're hungry, then you can feed yourself. I'm not going to help you." She sat on the sofa behind me and I had tears in my eyes. And I was like, what type of a mother is she? How can she say this to me? I was appalled. But then I was like, nay, I am also Virali. I also have this pride about myself that, okay, she has challenged me. I am going to do it and I'm going to figure out a way how to do it. It took me 40 minutes, not kidding. It took me 40 minutes. Kaise bhi karke, I pushed my body weight onto my legs. With my weak hands, I grabbed one biscuit ekdam shakily and I fed myself. And that moment of satisfaction, I have not gotten that satisfaction yet in life, except for that moment. At that moment, I was like, if I can do this, then I can do anything that I put my mind to. And if I am actually determined about doing this, then I will definitely accomplish it. So that was definitely one of the most monumental points of my life where I was like, I can do this. And like Shalini said, it's all from here. It is all from your mind. It is all from your mind. And I just want to share one more moment. I remember back in 2016 or 17, 2016, 17, one of my friends is a scuba instructor. He's a scuba diving instructor. And I was going to go scuba diving for the first time in my life. We were going to learn in the pool. And I remember I was in the car and my mother asks me, she was like, "Virali, all of these people are walking and you're not able to walk. Don't you feel sad about that? तुझे कहीं से दुख नहीं होता? Don't you feel left out?" I said, "Mom, there is a huge difference between me and them." She said, "What is the difference?" I said, "They are going to work and they are going to school. I'm going scuba diving. Who's more fortunate?" I am definitely more fortunate. So no, I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel that jealousy. I don't feel that, oh, I wish I had my legs or I wish I could walk. Because even in a seemingly negative situation, I am still living my best life. I am still living my life according to the way that I want to. And so I think that's really important when you have that determination and that perseverance, and you want to achieve something. If you put your mind to it, you can actually achieve it. And they always say that the only disability in the world is a negative attitude, is a bad attitude. That is the only disability. Me not being able to walk or any other kind of physical ailment, that is not a disability. That is just something that I am currently lacking. I'm not able to do. everyone also has a disability. Everyone is also lacking something. So then why can we not just normalize the term disability? In my point of view, why can we not just make it a positive thing instead of a negative thing? So yeah, sorry, I went into bhashan mode. I'm so sorry.
Okay, there's a question from Aishwarya. She is a student who is born and brought up in a typical Orthodox family. I have educated and loving parents who are ready to help me in achieving a perfect career in terms of academics. But I'm given a lot of restrictions since I am a girl. Because of this, I lost many good opportunities and lost my confidence to be independent. So actually, I have a dilemma whether I should hide something and follow my heart or restrict myself and fulfill my parents' wish. So anyone who wants to answer that?
Actually, I would want to. See, I think in this situation, I can totally understand what she's relating to and what she's saying, what Aishwarya is saying. I would say maybe try talking to your parents and try making them understand about what you want to do and what you don't want to do. But then at the same time, I also feel like you should follow your heart. I feel like it's important to follow your heart because ultimately, at the end of the day, you don't want to be stuck in a life where you are not happy or where you are not enjoying what you're doing or you're not satisfied. I know it's kind of difficult to go against our parents' wishes, but at the end of the day, ultimately they want our happiness, is what I feel. Is they want our happiness. So I think going after what you want to do, what your goals are, what your passion is, I think that is what you should do, Aishwarya, according to me. But I would want Shalini to answer this since
No, no,
you.
I also have the same thought process that it is so it is not right that you hide from your parents and or you just because as I said, it is just one life. It is just your life, how you want to live it. Like when I participated in pageant, a lot of people said, I also represented as a single parent in the global level, and being a widow, a lot of people try and tell me you should not do this, you should not do that. So it doesn't matter actually. So you should always follow your heart, and it is very important that you should speak to your parents, because I think parents are the biggest, any child's biggest strength is the parents. Whatever I am today is parents, and I'm sure everybody is going to vouch for it, that it is the parent support that can make you or break you. So it is important that you take them into confidence if they're not understanding. I was also from an Orthodox family, Rajput family, where girl wearing Western clothes is also not permitted. So joining army was like after the death of the husband, it is like just a big no-no where you just can't even think of stepping out of the house. So, but you have to take people in confidence. You have to make them believe in your dreams, make them believe in your abilities, and you will find the right path. You should not finish your ambitions just because your parents are orthodox. Try talking to them. I totally agree with Virali what she said.
Yeah. So basically, Aishwarya, follow your dreams, but take your parents along. I'm sure, it's just not, just one, two, three, four, five, even if it take 10 times, 15 times, take them into confidence. At the end of the day, they will say a strong yes instead of a strong no. Okay. You know, uh, we are going through a very difficult time, right? As everyone, especially in Mumbai, Pune, and all, which is a red zone, we are definitely going through a very difficult time. Things like 45 days, 40 days in a house, not going outside, some things which we as human beings have never done it. We are not at all accustomed to, right? Now, these are the situations which either makes you or breaks you. Okay, we have had many, many cases of domestic violences, many cases of, uh, there are many people in fear in, what will happen in the future, whether their jobs will be there, whether their, it's basically the sanity of the people is at stake. Now, everybody faces it, but there are some who finds opportunity in this, who are brave enough to say that, you know, okay, this is something which will go out, something which, you know, there is a silver lining in this, right? So any suggestions from you, all three, to everyone out here who, you know, who just want to find something positive, who just want to find something good about this entire thing and move ahead in life? Starting with Mansi.
So yeah, these few days of lockdown is tough on everyone. People are staying in their house. But one thing that I observed after staying in with my family was, you know, that we are spending maximum time with ourselves, and we are maximum spending time with family members, which previously we had not got that kind of time. And so this is like a time for people to bond, and such time is never going to come in future for everyone.
But at some
So
families, this is going, it's having a
yeah, I
negative
mean,
effect also.
that is there, that, you know, some families it's taking toll on people's mindset also, and people's how people are dealing with this is completely different. And this is one time where people have to, you know, think, we don't have to take violence, or people don't have to get angry because of small situation that are happening in our household. Household work is not one person's job right now. That's what I would like to say. It's everybody's job. Even like if you're cooking, you're not helping your mother to cook, you are helping your household, you are helping yourself only. So I would like to tell everyone that, you know, contribute to your own household, share workload, try to be more empathetic with your own family members, because this is what we are going to be to our neighbors and in the society once the lockdown is lifted. So this is like we have to find hope and positivity, maybe connect more with our family members. Like I am having different calls with my mom's side of family, dad's side of family, and, you know, connecting with people, because I had not got that kind of time previously. So I'm sure people if they, you know, try to find out positive out of the situation, we are going to come out stronger. Because if we will be able to say this in future, that if we can deal with lockdown for these few days that we have been already into, we can do anything. So I hope people take this lockdown in a positive way, follow this lockdown in a positive way, not just venture out for treks and you know, ऐसे ही कार लेके निकल गए, ये सब ना करे. Sit at home, follow the instruction, follow social distancing also. And I think we will come out stronger. And with this note, I would like to thank you and everyone. Of course, I loved everyone's story. Captain Shalini Virali, I was not aware about your stories and struggles. So hats off to both of you. You have actually proved that, you know, everything is possible. It's all in our heart, all in our head, how we think about our current situation. And this lockdown, this session is actually helping people to understand different stories, different people who have been through something similar, where people have been locked down in their own way, like Virali or Captain Shalini or me myself, we have been in our own lockdown previously. So this is like when people should come to know of different stories to feel and understand and be more empathetic to everyone. So I'm just leaving the session. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for coming.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Shalini.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Nice
Bye.
hearing you, meeting you. Bye.
Yeah. So moving on to you, Shalini, like, you know, what advice would you give these, you know, the people in this situation?
Yeah, so I did, like you said, that there are increasing number of domestic violence. In fact, 2 days back only, I got a counseling. I did a counseling session for a domestic violence case because of this lockdown. So, you know, a lot of things are happening. Even children are also getting frustrated sitting at home. They're not able to go out, play in the parks, or go and meet their friends. So, first of all, it is very important to understand that this lockdown is not by choice. It is for our health. It is for us to be safe and alive, right? And now, as a family, you know what I'm surprised is when we were working, running 24/7, no time for family, no time for eating meals on time. So we used to crib. We don't get family time, work life balance नहीं है, हमको इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हैं, टाइम से खाने को नहीं मिलता है. So अभी आपको सब कुछ मिल रहा है. आपको फैमिली टाइम भी मिल रहा है, आपको आपका स्पाउस भी टाइम पे मिल रहा है, टाइम पे सब कुछ खाने को दे रहा है, टेक केयर कर रहा है. एंड आई डेफिनेटली अंडरस्टैंड कि देयर इज इनसिक्योरिटी कि मेरी जॉब चली जाएगी. बट ट्रस्ट मी, ये सिर्फ आपके साथ नहीं है, इट्स अ ग्लोबल insecurity. Every person today is dealing with some kind of insecurity. जिनके business है उनको business खोने का डर है, जिनके jobs है उनको job का है, जो freshers हैं जो शायद इस साल job ले रहे होते उनको होगा कि मुझे job नहीं मिलेगी. So it is very important, as Mansi said, to be empathetic towards everybody, and it starts from your own home, that every single member of your home, give them their space. Like in our family, we don't communicate much because you know कई बार क्या होता है कि आपका threshold limit आ जाता है तो आप लोग की लड़ाई हो जाती है. थोड़ा बहुत बातें करो, ये करो, do whatever. Everybody has they we do play some time together. We do, like I have my mother, my son, we play Ludo together, we do something together, but then everybody is doing their work. We don't try to go into anybody's space कि आप क्या कर रहे हो. Live and let live is what we are following in this lockdown. We are definitely trying to help each other. We are trying to divide the household chores, and live and let live is very important to follow. And insecurity अगर मुझे अपनी जॉब जाने की है तो मेरे स्पाउस को भी होगा कि अगर मेरा हस्बैंड का या वाइफ का जॉब चला जाएगा तो हाउ विल वी मैनेज आवर जॉब. सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम what is important is that you come out of this pandemic alive. So you don't know ये वायरस किसके पास अभी नेक्स्ट आएगा. So with your family members, be nice because you don't know which person is going to be affected. So fighting domestic violence or insecurity, ये सब बहुत बात की बातें हैं. The life, if you come out alive of this, you are going to you have time for all these things. It's very important that be empathetic, have faith in your own self and in your family, that we are together and together we can fight it out. That is all I can say, because it's very disheartening for me when I got that call 2 days back. It was very disheartening for me to hear that she was beaten up and she's crying, you know, and sitting here helpless. We are just helpless. We can just talk and tell. But it is very important for every person to understand that it's not right to intrude into anybody's life, whether it is your wife or your husband or your child. Let everybody live, because everybody is going through some kind of frustration. A 2-year-old child is also going through a frustration because that child is not able to go down and play in the park. So we have to understand his frustration level also. So live and let live is what we are following in our family very strongly.
Viral, your thoughts?
Okay, so I kind of want to talk about the people that are living alone. Like I'm also living alone, so I know that it's very difficult. You don't have anyone around. पहले तो बाई भी आती थी, अब तो बाई भी नहीं आ रही है. So you're all living alone. You don't have people to interact with. Maybe your family is living in a different state or a different city. Whatever the case may be, it's really important to keep yourself positive and motivated during this time. We can definitely fall into a rut where we're feeling mentally unaccomplished in terms of having anxiety attacks or mental breakdowns or just crying randomly. I just want you all to know that it's okay to have like a little mental breakdown. It's okay to cry, because these feelings of uncertainty are here for a while. They are going to be here until this pandemic is officially over. But it's good to let loose. But more than that, what I want to say is it's the perfect time to actually form a positive habit. So they say it takes 21 days to actually fall into a routine and to form a habit. So during these days, why not try picking something up like meditating or even yoga or even just Zumba on your phone, watching it and just having a little dance party in your living room. Just something like that to keep you active, to keep you motivated, to keep you positive. Because I know for me, exercising, meditating, all of this has really helped me in maintaining a routine, which helps me feel normal. I know right now a lot of people, and I will be the first one to admit, me as well, our sleep schedules are off. We have become insomniacs. We're sleeping late. We're waking up later. And that is really messing with our system and our biological clock. What you need to understand is that, ठीक है, अभी तो ये सब हो रहा है, अभी तो आप maintain कर रहे हो. But once the lockdown is actually over, how are you going to transition from this phase into that normal wala, previous wala phase? How are you going to do that? That is going to be so difficult. So it is crucial that from this point onwards, we try building positive habits, we try making positive decisions, and we focus more on self-care, mental health, and just trying to be happy and trying to be productive is what I have to say. And of course, my thoughts mirror Shalini and Mansi as well. Be empathetic towards people, talk to people, reconnect with your families, reconnect with your friends. Obviously, abide by the laws and rules, stay at home. We've all heard it. But please just try doing something positive and something productive. That will definitely get you out of this negative rut in this negative zone.
So on that note, I guess we are, yeah. So, you know, on that note, we'll end this. And thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Virali. Thanks a lot, Shalini, for being a part of this.
Thank you, Prashant. It was really nice to be on this platform and interact with people and you. It was really, really nice. Thank you. And Virali, I'm really hats off to you again.
Thank you.
It's not
so
easy,
much.
you know, and it's
Hats off to you
especially
again.
in these crazy times, it's not easy to be
Yes.
alone.
That's
All
true.
the best and
All the
take
best
care
to
of
all of
yourself.
you. Yes, please take care of yourself. Stay at home, guys. Sanitize properly.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.